and summer was coming up, there was a big race to produce a batch of antivenom for possible human use.
I was the first one to have the antivenom treatment.
It had been made a little controversial by some people who had suggested publicly that it was dangerous and that it wasn't safe.
There could be side effects. It's the first time they were going to use it, and they wanted my permission, my signature. And of course I can remember saying to Malcolm Fisher, "What would you do?" And he said, "I would sign it."
We gave the first dose and nothing happened. That was the bit for which there was some trepidation.
And they kept coming out and saying no change.
And at that stage I rang Struan, and I think the words were, "It hasn't killed him, but it hasn't done any good."
I understand now. Struan, Sutherland, Birchie said, well, he's dead. Just keep pumping the stuff into him and see what happens.
And then over the next hour he virtually returned to normal.
Certainly the antivenom improved him pretty quick smart, thanks to Dr. Fisher.
You could just not have expected in any realistic sense that degree of improvement.
To this day, I'm indebted to both those people, especially Struan Sutherland, because I think he had an uphill battle for many years and didn't have a lot of backing, and only for him and his experiments, I have my husband with me today.
The antivenom has performed far better than I ever imagined. There have been no adverse reactions to the antivenom, which has made it, in fact, the safest antivenom that's ever been used in the world.
In a way, it was a bit sad. We had this, this was the most exciting disease there was to treat. It was a dramatic disease, and it epitomised, they were young people at high risk, it epitomised all the sort of things that we'd trained to do. And now they don't even come to us, they get fixed in the casualty department. So it really took a really good disease off us.
Try and catch a funnel web if someone's been bitten, because it's very useful to have them for identification purposes, because very often the thing that's bitten you is not a funnel web. Approach it fairly lightly with a large open mouth bottle, put it over the funnel web, slip a piece of stiff card underneath the bottle and the funnel web, and just upend them. You've got the funnel web in the jar quite safely, and you can put a screw cap lid on it. If you can't stop the funnel web any other way, or the spider any other way, put your foot on it maybe, to slow it down a bit. There's plenty more funnel webs where that one came from.
Now, antivenom is made by injecting minute doses into a host animal. This animal then builds up antibodies, and the small quantities of blood are withdrawn from the animal, and the antibodies that are in the blood are separated, and that is the antivenom that you get.
The particular toxin involved in the funnel web's venom actually only affects insects and primates. So if your dog or cat's bitten by a funnel web spider, highly unlikely that they will die. And because it only affects primates, we can use rabbits fairly easily to actually manufacture the antivenoms.
I have a siliconized glass pipette which is attached to a water suction apparatus. This creates a vacuum in the pipette, and fortunately the Sydney funnel web expels venom quite readily when they're disturbed. As you can see, this spider is attacking the pipette quite savagely because I'm disturbing it. And after I've milked about 8 spiders, this is then frozen, and in a frozen form it is sent to the Commonwealth Serum Laboratories, where it is made into antivenom.
With the Australian Reptile Park involved with this life-saving milking program, we need the funnel webs coming to us from the public.
There was a whole nest of funnel webs, like about 15, 20, 30 of them, in this patch of elephant ears up the back garden. So Dad's bottled them up to take them up to the laboratory where they make the antivenom. So his mum, she's got to look after these spiders in a box, all in bottle jars, driving along the Pacific Highway. She's 9 months pregnant with my brother, and they're doing about 100 k's an hour, and these funnel web spiders in these jars and these box at her feet, just cruising along. It's just like, nah, don't have an accident, Dad, whatever you do.
we have a couple of dry summers where there's not many male funnel webs around at all, and we can't supply the Commonwealth Serum Laboratories with this life-saving venom, then there could be life and death situations. And so we decided to launch into a breeding program. From this we've got approximately 1,000 juveniles hatched, and so we would never actually get ourselves into a situation where we just can't supply the venom. These guys are about 7 weeks old. It takes about 3 years for them to actually mature. This is quite exciting because this little fellow here is actually starting to rear up in the defence mode, and last week when we had them out they weren't doing this. Now he's trying to escape. Let's see if I can get him to do it again. Yeah, there he goes. Beautiful. At about 6 weeks old, they can rear up in the defence mode, just like the mother here. The program is not actually a viable commercial business for the park, but we feel that playing the role in saving so many lives within Australia is really important to us.
Funnel web antivenom is extremely expensive.
The process of collecting the venom is a very long and arduous process. So I guess the long-term goal of my work is to make a safe antivenom to this molecule, or what would be the molecule.
We want to make it by a method which allowed you to just produce the antibody by cell culture, and the antibody would be totally specific.
To make a synthetic peptide would be relatively cheap and easy once you know the structure of the molecule, which the structure will come out of this work.
We found there were also small protein toxins in funnel web venom which were lethal to a whole range of insects, and in particular the test insect we used was the cotton bollworm, which is a moth. The cotton crop has to be sprayed at least 22 times in a season normally, and it's very wasteful and also very polluting. So the hope is that with the toxins from the funnel web spider used in viruses that are specifically infect the insects and are non-toxic to other animals and the environment, that the funnel webs are going to make a great contribution to agriculture.
There are a number of drugs in common use now that have evolved from venoms, some to prevent clotting of blood, some for destroying tumours. It's an enormous untapped resource, and so venom research not only has immediate benefits for humans, but on the long term there are lots of useful things to be discovered.
And instead of being afraid of them, we're going to welcome their presence on the earth.
In 100 years' time, people will still be suffering funnel web spider bites in Sydney. I have the impression that the population of funnel web spiders is actually increasing as people put in swimming pools and barbecues and set up sort of damp ground patches that they like.
We have to live with funnel webs. Funnel webs are a part of Sydney life. They're embedded in the psyche of Sydney people. They're they almost give an edge to living in Sydney, which maybe other cities don't have.
My city of Sydney.
So in a way, we should be a little proud of the notoriety that funnel webs give Sydney, rather than being down on them all the time. We've got a very effective antivenom. Damn it all, they're one of the most toxic spiders in the world, and we've got them. That should be good.